What is up, my FCFFOTSs? How are we doing tonight? Welcome in. Comment, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share our page. We're doing with the boys and ladies. My name is Jeremy. That is Drew. What is up, brother? How you doing tonight?
Fantastic, man. I'm ready to talk some football. How are things with you?
Can't complain. I'm ready to talk some football as well. I guess we should lead off with the big story. Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon are teammates again. That's the biggest story in football, right?
It certainly seems to be. I also heard Johnny Manziel is going to try to be a professional golfer. So it seems like he's got a lot going on in his life.
No, in reality, though, J.J. Watt goes to Arizona, signs with the Cardinals, 2 years, $31 million, $23 million guaranteed. Nobody saw this coming. Everyone's like, oh, JJ's going back to the Midwest. He wants to play in the snow. And he's like, screw that. I want 360 days of sun, gorgeous weather, and $31 million. What are your thoughts on JJ going to the Cards?
Yeah, like you said, it seemed to be somewhat out of right field, right? The Cardinals weren't really somebody that we saw on the radar. Mm-hmm. Of course, your Browns were, there was a small list of teams, and then they came out swinging as far as the money's concerned. And he decided to go to, clearly he believes Kyler Murray is going to be, or this is just a money grab, but Arizona does have pieces, right? They have young pieces. I just am shocked. I was really shocked by it when I heard it, but hey, man, I did not think he was going to get that as far as compensation goes. I'm surprised. I know that, things have not been great down in Houston as far as what his ability to get to the pass rusher has a lot more to do with than just him. But numbers wise, it's been kind of going on the downhill, and that's a lot of cash to divvy up. And I thought he would maybe take a little less and play for a team that he thought may be a contender, but maybe, in his mind, he wanted to go back and play with Nuke and he thinks that Arizona is ready to win sooner rather than later.
We look into last year, Kyler Murray started the year strong. They looked like a team that could do something. And then they tailed off at the end. The problem with this team, you look at it, that defense was solid last year. Hassan Reddick stepped up. Chandler Jones is a beast. Budda Baker, stud. They've got pieces on defense. And now basically Hassan Reddick is out and you're replacing him with J.J. Watt. So you're going to have Watt and Chandler Jones.
Which is nice.
Scary combo. It's a damn good combo. However, none of these guys play right tackle, right guard, center, or left guard. That offensive line is absolutely abysmal. There's no reason for him to think right now that team can win anything unless he's going to play right tackle, unless they're going to start moving pieces around, because that offensive line is atrocious, and Kyler Murray is a 5'2", 106-pound quarterback, going to get annihilated.
It's funny that we're talking J.J. Watt, and this just popped in my head. I saw some pictures of him just like and his brother in like they cut out a bunch of ice and they're just like sitting in the middle of a lake, like just hanging out. That's just not normal behavior. Football players,
some ice fishing.
Football players are. It's not ice fishing when your body is in the water.
Yeah.
So those guys are built different. I again surprised. I think you and I agree that I don't think Arizona is as close as maybe J.J. Watt thinks. But I wouldn't mind going out and living in Phoenix.
Absolutely not. You play golf 300 days a year out there.
Exactly. I could do that.
This is a team. We'll talk NFC East probably 3 weeks from today. Right now we are moving into the NFC North today. We're continuing on with our offseason division by division preview. And once we get there, we'll talk more about what the Cardinals need. So we won't talk too much about that just yet. This is a team, though, they can do damage. That division's really up for grabs because we don't know what's going on with Russ. And Russ is already getting hit a ton, and now you add J.J. Watt to that division. There's a lot of pieces and moving parts in that division. Now you got Matt Stafford there, and we'll talk more about that trade coming up here when we talk to Detroit Lions. But, maybe they can win the division. I just don't see them doing anything right now as far as winning a championship. But, hey, stranger things have happened. Other news coming out today, Ben Roethlisberger, the 39-year-old ageless wonder quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers,
done.
decide,
he's coming back, but he's done.
He's coming back. He took his salary down from 19 million to 14 million.
What a gracious gentleman. What a wonderful person.
He's the best.
Yeah, isn't he?
We won't get into that. We'll talk more about Ben next week, actually. And we will have next week we'll have Garrett Bush of 92.3 The Fan, the host of the Barbershop, come on. He actually played against Ben Roethlisberger in the MAC. So we'll have to actually talk to him about that too. But this move saves the Steelers $15 million in salary cap. Ben threw 33 touchdowns, 10 picks last season. He had a pretty good year, but you could see down the stretch that he was just fading. We talked about Drew Brees last week, how you could see at the end of the year how he looked done. Ben looked done. Does Ben take this offseason and work on his body, go TB12 with it almost? Maybe not to that extent. But does he take this offseason build, and is he going to come back and do anything next year? Or is this just his swan song at this point?
I mean, he certainly may. I just don't know if Ben's the kind of guy to go TB12 it. Listen, they started out, 11-0 last year?
Yep.
But, like, even their last couple games, like, you could see they were kind of starting to go into a downward spiral a little bit. And there was, like, a month and a half, 2 months where they just weren't good. They were just terrible, really. I'm sure Ben doesn't want to go out like what happened, but this could certainly become one of the cases where it's just like, hey, listen, you might outstay your welcome, rather. I don't know if the front office is that confident that he's the guy, but are we going to ask Dwayne Haskins to play? You know what I mean? So I think right now at this point they kind of just have to roll the dice here and see what they have for at least one more year. And I think we both know it's going to be one more year, and then Ben's probably going to be done. I would think at least.
That's the best case scenario for them. And this money, really, where they started to go downhill, it wasn't necessarily that Ben wasn't playing well. The offense was terrible. Yes, they had no running game. They need to find a running game. They can do that in this draft. There's a lot of really good running backs you can get cheap in this draft. But Bud Dupree was the biggest reason they started to suck down the stretch. And now with him coming off that injury and then maybe opening up some cap space, there were rumors, today I saw on Twitter, they might bring Juju back. I don't think the money is at all going to Juju. Juju's gone as far as I'm concerned. We'll talk more about that, like I said, next week. But it's Bud Dupree they got to really bring back. So this money hopefully brings back Bud Dupree for them if they want to be any good next season. Because we know it's not Mason Rudolph. We know it's not Dwayne Haskins. But a year of watching Ben Roethlisberger, a year of sitting with Ben Roethlisberger, picking his brain, maybe that helps Dwayne Haskins become the guy we thought he'd be, coming out 2 years ago in the draft, because we both thought he was going to be a solid quarterback. But he needs to grow up.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up with him. Grow up is kind of been his Achilles heel, and the fact that he's looked terrible when he's played. But
yeah, he's definitely had some issues. But it's definitely time for him to grow up. And this is a situation that gives him a chance to do it. And maybe it works out for him. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, it's a no-lose situation for the Steelers. You got a first-round guy you can bring in, maybe do something, and they'll go from there. But, I mean, they could always bring Johnny Manziel from the Fan-Controlled Football League or whatever that is. I don't even know the name of it. Is this even playing right now? Have you seen any of this or know anything about it?
I have. I haven't seen Johnny Manziel, no. But I did see, like in my room, I don't necessarily, the one room, I don't have, the access to, a list of channels. Like, you just scroll, through the channels, old school, right? And I on this thing, I said, what the hell is this thing? And it was pretty electric, to be honest with you. Right. I don't know how the fan interaction, or if I could sit back and call plays for a series, and hell yeah, I'd be into that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works, if there's if you vote on the next play or whatever, but it was football, and it's at this point it's March, and we I would watch a little bit of anything, but sometimes even those arena football leagues, it was fun to check in with, where there's basically sideboards, and so I don't know. It's probably not going to make it because most of these things don't, but I at least got to check out 5 minutes of it.
And now we'll start moving into the NFC North here. We're going to start with the Lions. But the Lions made a signing yesterday, and we'll talk more about this here in a second. Tyrell Williams $6.2 million with a $4.6 million base, I believe it was, somewhere around there. This is a guy who played under Anthony Lynn in San Diego with the Chargers and LA. I believe he was even in LA the first season they were there in the soccer stadium. How you feel about that as a Lions fan?
I mean, my initial thought was it seems a little pricey. However, it also makes me think, what are we doing with Kenny Golladay at that point, right? And that's what I think the real thing is because, and I understand that Marvin Jones is gone. You have Quintez Cephas, who's a young player. He's not necessarily ready to take over at this point. So that puts you you sign a guy like Tyrell Williams to, I'm not saying it's a huge number, but again, in this cap kind of hell season, it seems like kind of a hint to me they might be looking in a different direction. The players, I like the player. Anthony Lynn likes the player. He did have success with Anthony Lynn. However, he's coming off a major injury where he missed not the whole season, a majority of the season.
Season.
Yeah. So again, you have to sign somebody, right? If you're the Lions, because you're going to be losing some people. But to me, it kind of rang that bell like, hey, it's just kind of signaling that either they try to tag and trade Golladay or just outright let him walk right on out. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but it certainly seemed to hint one way or the other to me.
When the signing happened yesterday, you and I texted back and forth on it, and I'm like, okay, it could be worth up to $6.2 million, which was the big deal. Up to $6.2 million. That was the wild card. We didn't know what the guaranteed money was or what the base salary was, and that's where I'm like, okay, well, if it's like $1 million, $2 million, then it says nothing about Kenny G. But $4.6 million, that's a pretty decent chunk for a team that is already over the salary cap. They cut Desmond Trufant today.
Good move.
I mean, this is a team that was 5-11 last year. You're going to start working away from the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia era, which has to make you absolutely thrilled. But you have some key free agents right now. Kenny G, he's kind of old going into his first free agent campaign.
Correct.
But
yeah,
he's still one of the better younger receivers in the game. I mean, he's definitely a deep threat, but he's got to get on the field. You have Romeo Okwara, who had 10 sacks last year. I mean, are you going to put money into him, bringing him back, or are you looking elsewhere? Matt Prater, Danny Amendola, and Jared Davis, all also free agents. Who are the guys out of that list that you're really looking to bring back if you're the Lions?
Well, Jared Davis isn't coming back. Danny Amendola isn't coming back. Listen, I love you some Matt Prater. I'd like to make something happen with Matt Prater. I'm okay with letting Kenny Golladay walk. I really have no problem with it. You mentioned one of the reasons why I say this is because we've seen Jared Goff as a quarterback. And Jared Goff, one of the things he's a guy that's not going to be throwing a lot of balls 10 yards or further down the field. The offense is going to have to adapt into somewhat of a short passing fundamental offense like that where they're trying to get guys in space. Kenny Golladay is not a burner. He has one of the lowest separation rates in all football as far as the top wide receivers. And so to me, it's just one of those things where we are right now as a team, the Lions rather. As much as I like Kenny G, I think maybe it's one of those things where you can shed that cap, let it walk, and I guess you can't really shut the cap because you're on the books anyway. But yeah, I have no problem letting him walk, and I think that's what they ultimately do, or they tag and try to trade the guy.
I mean, you tag and try to trade him, you are going to face some salary cap implications on that, but you're also getting an asset back. And at that point, is it worth the risk of maybe not finding the right trade partner by tagging him for the season? Or is it really just better off, like you said, to just cut your losses now and start moving towards the future?
I think it might be just and it's just a lot of money to. I mean, essentially, it's going to be $18 million.
Mhm.
And it's just a lot, to even with this team and where I expect them to be next year. That's a lot of money to dump into somebody, and just re-signing them long term is a lot. When this team is going to probably take two to 3 years to kind of turn this thing around, based off the shit show the last clown put out. So it's going to take time, and I just don't know if that's where we want to. Again, there's a lot of receivers in this draft. We've somewhat touched on them. A lot of them are nice, flashy pieces. I just don't feel necessarily comfortable paying the guy the money. I love Kenny G. I just think where the team is right now, they just don't. I don't think they end up paying him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, you're looking at least a 5-year, $75 million contract, most likely. And while he's a very good receiver, and you know what you're getting out of him, it may be a time where the mystery box makes sense. Because when you do look at this draft, the Lions pick at 7. Jamar Chase could be there. Jalen Waddle could be there. Devontae Smith could be there, depending on how things fall.
If I had a gun to your head, I'm not going to put a gun to your head for everybody listening. I'm not going to do that to him. He's in a different place. However, if you had a gun to your head right now and I had to say, hey, you're taking Waddle, you're taking Devontae Smith, you're taking Jamar Chase, who are you taking?
Oh, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even think it's close for me.
I don't either.
Devontae Smith's my third wide receiver right now.
And the thing is with Devontae Smith, not that we're trying to get into a draft show at this point, but Devontae Smith's size is concerning to me. And Jalen Waddle, in my opinion, is electric and could be very good. But yeah, Jamar Chase, people forget because he didn't play last year how awesome he is.
Right now, looking at it, and all my rankings come out Monday, by the way. Follow me on Twitter at SomervilleCLE.
Do it.
All my rankings will come out for the draft on Monday. When I look at things right now on my notes, I've got 7, possibly 8 first-round wide receivers. That's how good this wide receiver class is. And there's guys who are going to be top second-round picks who are going to be first-round talents. So, yeah, this isn't a year where if you're a younger team and you don't know what you're doing, necessarily going into the future, you're not sure what you have. I think this is a year for the Lions to really figure out, let's see what Goff is. Let's see what he has. Let's not spend the money on Kenny G right now. Let's get one of these young guys who can grow, and maybe we end up with a solid quarterback in Goff. Maybe we end up getting another guy next year. But it's just wait. I'm with you. Kenny G probably walks, best thing to do. But what about Romeo Okwara and his 10 sacks?
I think I think he's going to walk. I don't think they're going to pay him. Romeo was somewhat of a nice piece, right? They still had Trey Flowers they're paying a shit ton of money to. Thank you, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. Now, listen, Trey Flowers is a fine player. Compensation-wise on his value he's put on the field, we're not talking the same tune at this point. Again, I think they let him walk. They're going to need some cap flexibility. I agree 100% with what you said about just kind of figuring out what you have at this point. But to an extent, to touch on another thing with Kenny Golladay is Matt Stafford's willing to sling the ball in tight windows.
Absolutely.
And Jared Goff does not have that mentality, right? He's not the guy and that's kind of how Kenny G plays. I'm just not sure that they mesh together.
You talked about earlier is separation. He is a deep threat with Matt Stafford because he doesn't get separation, but he makes contested catches. And Matt Stafford can throw the ball through a pinhole. I mean, that's just what he can do. But when you look at that 7th pick, you're sitting there at number 7. Where are you aiming with that 7th pick? Right now, my needs for the Detroit Lions.
Hang on. We it's going to be long here.
I've got 6 spots where there's a need. Linebacker, edge, wide receiver, safety, D-line, and QB. Yeah. And I'm a fan of Jared Goff, so I'm not saying you need to draft a quarterback round 1, but I think you need to get some kind of developmental quarterback because David Blau, nice piece, not the guy. I mean, Chase Daniel, end of his career. I mean, he's not going to be the guy ever.
I saw he was in Hawaii today. Good for him.
Good for him. I looked at a trip to Hawaii at the new Disney hotel in Hawaii.
Yeah, you can't afford that. I can't afford.
No, bro,
afford that shit.
5 days. They're like, they send me an email, right?
Yeah.
They're like, if you book 5 days, we'll give you 20% off. I'm like, that's not too bad. At the Alana Wanahanahii Hotel, Disney. I'm like, Disney characters. I'm like, hula. It's right there on the beach. I'm like, you take the kids, you don't ever have to go off the hotel. And it's like $4,900 for 5 nights. And I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. I mean, I could take them to Myrtle Beach for $1,000 and they'd have a great damn time. So not going to Hawaii. But with that 7th pick, where are you looking?
Down. I want to go down. Now, part of me wants to draft Zach Wilson if he's available, but I don't think he's going to be. I'm uncomfortable with Micah Parsons at 7. I don't dislike the player, Micah Parsons. I just don't like him at 7. I think the Lions should trade up to number 2 and take Kyle Pitts. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't do that.
Kyle Pitts isn't a bad pick even at 7. I know you have TJ Hawkinson.
No, I'm not doing that.
People say he's a tight end, but that guy's a weapon all around if used properly. But I don't think that's at all where they're going to look this season.
And Dan Campbell he was a tight end. I mean, hell. But no, they would not do that. I actually prefer to trade back because, again, you mentioned there's a lot of talent. I'm not sold on taking Micah Parsons as a top 10 dude, and I don't think you should. If you're going to take Jamar Chase there, I'm 100% on board with it. If he's there, I still think you have the opportunity for a Trey Lance or somebody like that to be at that position. And while if you love the guy, take the guy, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly. But I also think that you can make people feel like that you love the guy and they're going to come up and potentially want to get that guy. And that's where I think the value is of the 7th pick, especially in this draft. And we see this every offseason. Remember Zach Wilson like 2 months ago was like, yeah, he's nice. Now Zach Wilson, he's better than Trevor Lawrence, and then Justin Fields is better than Trevor Lawrence. It's the same damn shit that we see every year. It's the same thing every year. This is how the draft it works.
Chris Sims says Kellen Mond's a 1st-round pick.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody's going to want to move up for one of these guys because you know what? People want to take swings at the quarterback. I'm not certain the Lions are going to do that. But if Zach Wilson is there, man, that would be tough for me to say no to, even given Jared Goff being there. But if Justin Fields is – it's hard for me because – me personally, I think that there's so many other needs at this point that it's tough to go quarterback. But then again, how many times do you expect to be picking in the top 10? I certainly hope it's not very many.
When you look at this draft, the thing that sets up nice for you is we're all giving in. We're not going to give in to the bullshit that's going on. I'm saying right now Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick. I don't care what anyone else says. Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. After that, the entire draft is a crapshoot. The Jets could decide to stick with Sam Darnold. At 3, Miami still got Tua. Maybe they say, hey, whatever, we'll take this. Falcons are like, hey, we want to win now. Then you go to Cincinnati, and they're not taking a quarterback. At 6, maybe Philadelphia says, hey, we want to stick with Jalen Hurts. That's our guy. We took him in the 2nd round last year. Let's roll with him. And then you come into number 7. You could have Wilson and Fields sitting there. And if Wilson and Fields are sitting there and a team knows – at number 8, Carolina wants a quarterback. That number 7 pick has so much value that you're going to be able to move back.
We'll take if 14 firsts,
you can get almost anything. But if given the chance, if you have Wilson and Fields there, who do you take?
Zach Wilson.
Justin Fields.
That's who you're going to take?
Justin Fields all day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to take either of them.
Yeah. I don't think either one of them get to that point.
However, I do think, touching on the Lions, they have done, and my contacts have been crazy. Sorry about me just continually poking myself in the eye. They've, I feel like, assembled a hell of a front office and really a hell of a coaching staff. And I'm not the Homer type rah-rah guy. And yes, I did like Matt Patricia, but I think overall, you bring in a guy like John Dorsey, you have Brad Holmes, you've kind of solidified your front office. And then I think that they've gone out and they've done a really good job of hiring guys that know how to coach football at certain positions. I mean, you look, Anthony Lynn's a hell of a football coach. He might not have been a great head coach, but he's a hell of an OC.
Damn right.
You know, and they've just continued to put guys like that. Hey, it might not work out, but damn, Dan Campbell's pretty hard not to like too. You know what I mean? Like,
Dan Campbell's a dude's dude. Like,
yeah, and
he's not going to BS you, which is all you had with Matt Patricia.
Correct, and that's and
he's
yeah,
refreshing.
It's not like we just need to work on our pad level and we just need to coach better and things like that. You know, it is a breath of fresh air. And hey, I hope it works out. It may not. And you know, honestly, it probably won't, based off the history of my team. I'm going to be optimistic about it, and I'm going to like it. I do think, as much as Matt Stafford's a fantastic football player and one of my favorite Lions ever, I do think the compensation that they're getting in return for Matthew Stafford was pretty damn elite as far as what a front office could do. You bring back a player who was a number 1 overall pick. You get 2 first-round picks. You get a third-round pick. I feel like the Lions really, for once, were the aggressor and really got what they wanted for the guy. And we'll miss Matt Stafford, but damn it. And everybody's like, you know, I want Matt Stafford to win a ring. And that'd be great, but I know not now, because we need you guys to be terrible. And so that's what we're rooting for as Lions fans. If you have any other disagreements, then you're more about the player than the team.
Yeah, I was just going to add before you said that about this coaching staff front office, but the addition of John Dorsey, we talked about this on the show before. John Dorsey in Cleveland did a lot of really nice things. But John Dorsey gets in John Dorsey's own way sometimes. And John Dorsey being a scout, a guy you can bounce ideas off of, excellent piece. And that's going to be so huge for Brad Holmes. So when you look at this team next year, I mean, you're going to have Jared Goff starting. We've talked about before that Jared Goff, I obviously have said many times I like Jared Goff. The one thing they need to work on with Jared Goff is to get him back to the quarterback he was coming out. Jared Goff looks shell-shocked, like he's in his own head, and where he's holding the football is wrong. He holds the football too close to his body, doesn't get it out fast enough, and that split second has changed the fact that he used to have completions and now he's throwing incompletions. But there is hope there with Jared Goff. And the addition of Tyrell Williams, while it doesn't seem that exciting really right now, Tyrell Williams brings one thing you need in the league now: speed. Elite speed, and he
especially
has
for his size. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, Tyrell Williams definitely has speed, but the other thing to me is I think Sean McVay eventually got frustrated that Jared Goff wasn't able to do some of the things, a lot of the things that he wanted to do offensively. Mm-hmm. Because Jared Goff does have limitations. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. That's the player he's become. But now, can the Lions and you know, Anthony Lynn do things to make him comfortable? I certainly hope so. But I think eventually that frustration, because remember, they were bros. Remember at the beginning, when they were on a Super Bowl, man, these guys hang out all the time. Their wives like each other. And then 2 years
ever. Yeah,
and then 2 years later, you know, they're Sean McVay's, you know, having a romantic dinner with Matt Stafford in Cancun. So, but yeah, it's to me, it's some of what McVay wanted to do. I don't think Jared Goff was maybe able to do, or I think he certainly thought he could upgrade. And I think the relationship got sour at some point. And also, you know, in Jared Goff's success, they had the ability to run the ball consistently, and that kind of went away. And so I think Jared Goff's a guy that has to work off of a play action, and he's not going to sit back and throw it 50 times a game. And sometimes you would see the Rams would actually throw 45, 50 times a game. It's just, I don't think the philosophy's worked with those two. So yeah, he has a possibility to have success, but at the same time, man, do we know what Jared Goff is at this point is my question.
I think you said what Jared Goff is. He's a guy who works best off play action. And I think that, coupled with Anthony Lynn, is going to be huge for the Lions, because I think Anthony Lynn finally uses DeAndre Swift correctly. and you see this guy get double-digit carries every game.
Deuce Staley, dude. Deuce Staley loves another guy. The Lions hired
not all players,
Staley.
all former players on your coaching staff, which is excellent. But you have Anthony Lynn, who uses play action. You have a second-round pick in DeAndre Swift, who showed how good he can be in spurts when he was actually used last year. I think this is where the Lions are going to be. They're not going to be – this roster as it sits right now, this isn't a playoff roster. But it's a roster that you can see growth in, and that's really what you're looking forward going into next year. But this is where the NFL is great, because the next 2 months, free agency starts here in less than 2 weeks, and then you have the draft.
It's going to be a wild free agency, I think, too, because
absolutely
there's going to be lots of cuts coming. It's just the way it's going to be.
And you're going to see a huge secondary market. You're going to see a team or two who go for that 12:01 a.m. deal, but you're going to see a lot of secondary market players get signed 1-year deals. 1 year, prove it, then wait for the money to come back up for the salary cap. That's where it's going to change. And we'll get to talk about that more next week too, because that'll be our last show before free agency starts. Let's move on. Let's stay in the NFC North. Let's talk the Minnesota Vikings. 7-9 last year. Anthony Harris, free agent. Eric Wilson, a free agent. They have 11 draft picks, coming back with Kirk Cousins. They absolutely had a star in the draft last year in Justin Jefferson. We saw how good their running game can be. We saw that the defense was pathetic. This team needs help all across the defense again. I mean, I thought their defense last year was going to be good because they brought in Yannick Ngakoue. You had
it lasted 10 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, they traded their second-round pick, but they got a third round in return. So, I mean, they cut their losses early enough to kind of get something back. But for the Vikings this offseason, it's really about building that defense. I mean, do they spend the money on Anthony Harris to bring him back, or they say, hey, we can get someone in the draft, or we can bring up a guy we got on the roster?
I think you have to try to bring him back for the simple fact that you have to keep some of the pieces you have. You have very few pieces. This defense from the last 3-4 years, it was one of the best defenses in all of football, right? So we're not that far removed from what was a really fantastic defense. And then Xavier Rhodes, remember, he was super awesome, and then he was terrible.
Yep.
And then he went to he was really good, and then he was cuttable. But I think they have to do what they can to keep him. But you're right, they have to stack the defensive end. Their offense, I mean, Justin Jefferson, I honestly believe the Stephon Diggs trade worked out so nicely for both teams because essentially they got Justin Jefferson and the Bills got Steph Diggs, and Justin Jefferson's special. Kirk Cousins still has his limitations. But, yeah, they have to go defense, in my opinion. Similar to the Lions, but we have some more holes than they do. But this roster isn't as good as you would think. I mean, Dalvin Cook was just so good last year.
Unbelievable.
And also Justin Jefferson took over some games. But their offense, again, as all offenses tend to do under Kirk Cousins, go through drives and spurts where they can't move the ball at all.
Yeah, and this team is exactly what we were talking about with the Lions, where you don't want to see Kenny Golladay go. But you saw that Stephon Diggs left Minnesota last year, and they brought in the rookie wide receiver, and it worked out. That's what you're hoping in Detroit, is that you can say goodbye to the guy who you know is a proven commodity, and he can go to a team that's ready to win now, and you can bring in
Justin Jefferson.
A Justin Jefferson type. I mean, maybe not Justin Jefferson type, because Justin Jefferson was phenomenal last year. That was an incredible year for a rookie wide receiver. But that's what you're hoping. You can replace him in that stat or in that fact. But when I look at this team, you look at their defensive line. They need edge help. They need interior line help on both sides of the ball. Really, they got to rebuild their lines. And if they can rebuild their lines, this team could probably be the second best team in this division. But it's going to take a really good draft. And they have 11 picks. I mean, when you look at – let me pull it up here. Give me a second. I'll grab my notes. I mean, they're sitting there at number 14. Christian Barmore is probably a guy you could look at. I mean, and then go middle round. You go with a guy like Creed Humphrey, maybe Quinn Miners, someone like that to rebuild in the middle. But they've got to rebuild the lines in Minnesota because you're right. Kirk Cousins, very limited. You cannot have him running for his life. And you cannot give the ball to Dalvin Cook 400 times again, so you have to figure out how to work that balance again. Because without Dalvin Cook last year, they would have been even more.
They're not a team designed to come from behind.
Nope.
And when your defense is ass, you tend to have to be coming from behind very often. So they're going to have to clear that up.
Absolutely. 7-9, though, even with all those issues, easily with the right moves could be a 10-win team again.
Yeah, sure.
And now we'll move on to Chicago. 8-8 last year, lost the wild card round to the New Orleans Saints. They've got some interesting free agents. Number one among them, quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky is a free agent. Cordero Patterson, Barkevious Mingo, also free agent. They're not really losing anyone major outside of Cordero Patterson was a nice player for them. He did a lot of things, ran the ball solid when he was in the backfield. He's a return man. He's a gadget player, can do a lot of things. Mingo, a guy who...
You know Mingo well.
Yeah, Mingo has bounced around. He's a guy who's always going to be that athletic freak, and he's going to have a game or two for you each year where you're like, this is the guy we thought we'd get, and then he does nothing the rest of the time. They have 8 picks, 8-8. The number one thing for this team is a quarterback. What do they do at quarterback? They pick number 20 in the first round. Where are they going? Is Mitch Trubisky coming back? Is it the Nick Foles show? What are they doing?
Deshaun Watson? No, I don't know. Isn't Allen Robinson also coming up on free agency?
Allen Robinson is also a free agent, but I think he's already gone, so I didn't even write
it down. Okay. Just making sure that I wasn't just,
No, I mean, he's already on podcasts and other shows talking about how he's going to be possibly playing with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, bro, I've never seen somebody lobby to just let me go, please.
He's done.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I'm just saying, let's move on. Even the guy we've had on the show, a friend of the show, in Joseph Herb, he's on Twitter just enough, Allen Robinson, get out of here. We're sick of you, and I get it.
Well, nobody wants somebody to disrespect the organization like that. And I mean, I understand Allen Robinson. He's a man that's, in my opinion, been handcuffed.
Yeah. Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah. And we, of course, Mitch is a local guy and God, it just doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It doesn't mean he's a bad dude. It just means he might not be a very good quarterback.
That's a thing for me still. I'm in the minority in this.
You are. Go ahead.
Listen, I was high on Mitch coming out. Yeah, I know.
You were high on something.
Yeah, I was. Very. I was eating those gummies during the draft that year. But anyway, back to whatever the hell I was talking about. No, that first year where you had success with Mitchie, he threw 27 touchdown passes. They had a balanced offense. He wasn't great, but he was a guy who showed he could win the game and not necessarily lose it for you. He was an Alex Smith type. And then all of a sudden they stopped running the football. And he just looks like absolute ass. And then last year, towards the end of the year, they start running the football again. David Montgomery's finally getting carries and finally living up to his fantasy value where we were all hyped and jerking ourselves off about how good David Montgomery's going to be. And they make the playoffs.
Did Matt Nagy save his job based off that back half of the year? Because Matt Nagy was a dead man walking for a long time. And I honestly believe, in my opinion, Matt Nagy should have been a dead man walking.
He should, because right now you're looking at a team that's exactly where your team was last year.
Yeah. I don't think Matt Nagy should have been retained, in my opinion. It's tough. I honestly don't know. What number would Mitch come? Mitch's market value is so intriguing to me because what the hell is a guy like Mitch? I mean, he's not worth starter money, right?
He's a proven contract.
What's that number at? Is that a 1-year deal? And what does it even look like?
6-8.
Yeah, and so maybe they do bring him back because if they don't get Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. Russell Wilson is the one that I heard was rumored to be wanting to go there. I don't know why you want to go to the Bears. I'd be so pissed if Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson went to the Bears.
We made 36 minutes into the show without talking about Deshaun Watson.
As
long as we've done it 2 months.
But I don't know. I guess they would retain him at that number, in my opinion, because I don't know if they have unless they have another option, because I don't think you can just go full balls deep into Nick Foles. I'm sorry. You got to have a contingency plan. And I know Bears fans don't want to see Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky roll back out there next year, but sure as hell I do.
If you had to pick one, who are you picking? If you had to pick one of those guys.
I'm still going to pick Mitch Trubisky.
I'm with you. I mean, Nick Foles is coming back, though. We know that for sure. Right. I think this is the spot at 20 where if you're sitting there at 20, and I'm going to bring him up again, my guy Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, here we go.
Mac Jones, who isn't anything special, but he's a guy who can go out there and take advantage of the pieces around him. We saw what he could do. And all the guys, listen, enough of the crap with, oh, I'm so surprised Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith picked Mac Jones over Tua. That was their guy they played with last year. They're going to usually do that. They're going to be like, yeah, this is the guy. And plus, Devontae Smith got handed the Heisman from Mac Jones. So whatever on it. But Mac Jones, if he's going to go first round, I think this is the spot. I mean, I've seen people have him as high as 8, Mel Kiper, who last week we talked about with Nick Wilson. I mean, he's not going 8. I don't think he should go 8. But a guy at 20 who, if you're the Chicago Bears and you can take that chance, then you do it. But they've got a lot of other issues. I mean, at wide receiver, they've got some young guys who are solid. But if you're losing Allen Robinson, you don't easily replace Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson's the top 10 receiver in the league.
Absolutely.
And I'll argue to the death with anybody. I mean, he's putting up good numbers with Mitchie and Nick, and you know, the guy again. He's basically saying he'll go on a podcast and say he'll play for any quarterback. That ain't Nick Foles or Mitchie. Yeah, right. Like it doesn't even matter if you got 2 arms. You got a right arm or a left arm. Oh man,
how fun would it be to see Allen Robinson go to a place with a really good quarterback? I mean, if you look at the top, you got 3 really good wide receivers at the top of the free agency class: Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, and Allen Robinson. Out of those 3, they're really good. Who do you take?
I'll take Allen Robinson.
100%.
Yeah, I'm taking Allen Robinson. And then the other 2 are toss-up to me. To be honest with you, I like Chris Godwin. But I mean, I think Allen Robinson's a clear guy. Allen Robinson is he'll burn you. He'll get across the middle, you know, tough yards where you know you're getting popped. He can catch anything. He's reliable as they come. He can run any route there is. That guy is phenomenal. And whatever team he goes to, as long as it's not the Vikings or Packers, good for him, man. But you're right. You're right. That's an immediate void in the Bears, who don't. Their offense is ass anyway. So now your best player's gone. So what the hell do you do now?
I mean, you look at the Bears. They got the 20th pick, and then they pick 52-83. So they've got really 3 picks in the top 164. Actually, is where they're at.
Could you imagine this terrible ass team with Mitch Trubisky, no Allen Robinson? Oh, they were almost unwatchable last year. Could you imagine that garbage-ass offense rolling out? They would only – oh, Lord. I mean –
they've got to do something because –
they have to do – yes.
Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, they are in
fighting for their lives.
Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia, where they're like, we got to throw everything we can. Who cares about the future, the near future? Let's throw what we can to get there. Get us what you can. I mean, this is a spot where you're going to find maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick ends up there, like a swan song of, hey, let me just sling it 60 times a game and see what we can do, because that defense is still good enough to win you football games. But they have to get the quarterback position right. And if it takes trading your entire draft, every pick, plus first round next year, and whatever you can, a couple deep dish from Lou Malnati's or Giordano's, whatever it takes to get Deshaun Watson or Russ Wilson, you got to do it.
Is good.
Because Khalil Mack, not getting any younger. I mean,
that's true.
Akeem Hicks not going to be playing at top level much longer. They've got really good defenders, and they're wasting them.
I think the Bears are in bad. I honestly think the Bears, they're not in a great place right now.
No,
and it's not just that quarterback position. There's a lot going on with what the Bears. I mean, you're losing. You're probably outside of Khalil Mack, your best player, right? Yeah. He's just walking. He doesn't want to be there. You have no clue about the quarterback position, which is the most important position. As you said, you traded away everything for Khalil Mack, right? Everything. Mystery boxed. You know, the Raiders wanted the mystery box. They took it. You traded the hell out of him. So he's getting older, like you said. This defense isn't getting any younger. And how long can this defense continue to be the backbone of this team with, and you've seen it, when teams can't score, the defense tends to start getting a little resentful of the offense for not being able to put up any points, and you're on the field all the time, and that offense is gonna, I just don't know how they're going to produce. I know they can run the football, or they can get back to running football, and as they did the back half of the year, but you can't just run the football to win. You have to be able to put the ball in the air.
And you saw at times last year where this defense, not only did they resent it, but they would get overly aggressive. And they would end up getting burnt because they felt they had to put all the pressure on them to either get a turnover, get a big sack, or do something. But Bears still made the playoffs. We'll see. They've got the next 2 months to redo that roster. They need help on the lines. They need wide receiver. They need a quarterback. Let's see what they do in the next 2 months. Now we'll move on to the champion of the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers, who went 13-3 for the second year in a row, lost in the NFC title game. They've caught Aaron Rodgers coming back, most likely. But they're going to lose Corey Linsley, possibly, top center in the league. Aaron Jones, free agent. Kevin King, Robert Tonyan, Jamal Williams, all free agents. They've got some big free agents, and they've got 11 draft picks. Where do you see the Green Bay Packers going in the draft?
Weapons. I'm not overly concerned with anybody you mentioned necessarily outside of the center, right?
Yeah.
I'm not overly concerned. I think that those are positions that they can just kind of go out and find. They have a lot of draft capital. They decided to swing and go the Jordan Love route last year, right? Yep. Instead of going to get a weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I think that at this point, if they do not get some weapons around Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Because I get wanting to look in the future and build for the future, but Aaron Rodgers is still playing at MVP level. He is the MVP.
Level.
So again, what are we doing here? I think they need to just focus on getting him some playmakers. I'm not overly concerned about necessarily paying anybody. I mean, Robert Tonyan's going to ask for money that we were paying him $10. Now he's going to ask for $20 million. Like, you know, and is that worth paying? It is. Again, in this salary cap that we're in now.
I think Tonyan gets paid an average contract, nothing special. He had a good year last year, touchdown-wise. He's a guy who's developing. He's not a guy who is a finished product. And we know basically we know that Aaron Rodgers probably made him better than he is. But he's a guy who works with George Kittle. He's the type who wants to be the next George Kittle, and maybe he gets to that point. But to do that, you have to stay in Green Bay. I think out of the guys listed, Corey Linsley and Robert Tonyan are the guys coming back. Aaron Jones, I think, is gone.
I agree.
And I think that's fine because when you look at the running backs available in this draft, they can get running backs. I mean, the last mock draft I did on the PFF mock draft simulator, which I've done a zillion of these, I got Zavin Collins first round, and that's a hell of a linebacker for them, 6'4", 260-pound rocket out of Tulsa. And then at 61, Travis Etienne from Clemson was sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could even get him, not maybe at 61, I don't think he falls to that point.
I don't either.
But if you can get Travis Etienne, a Najee Harris in the second round, if you can trade up even to get that, you replace Aaron Jones. Or maybe you get one of the kids out of North Carolina, one of those studs, a Chuba Hubbard in the, fourth round, a Trey Sermon later on. A Trey Sermon isn't going to be a guy who's a burner, but he's a guy who's going to get you those yards.
Move the chains. Yep.
And he takes care of the football. So as far as that, you're fine. And you can get a linebacker, second round, third round, wherever. Maybe get a wide receiver, maybe an Elijah Moore, maybe a Rondale Moore. Maybe they trade up. I doubt it. But they don't have a lot of time with Aaron Rodgers.
It's all in. It's chips in the center of the table right now. Let's roll.
And that's not Packer way, but
what has to be. Again, this league's about Super Bowls. This league's not about NFC Championship games. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Rodgers, again, if they added a weapon last year, it could have been a different outcome. I'm not saying it would have been a different outcome, but if they had another guy they drafted atop the class to add into what that team was doing, instead of taking Jordan Love, who your first pick was not playing one game for you. He was helping you zero, and Aaron Rodgers goes out here and wins MVP. And it's like, get the guy some help. He's got guys on his team that most people don't even know who they are. that he's
a bunch
throwing
of
to.
fouls and 6'5" guys.
Exactly. They got 4-5 names. It's incredible. You know, Valdez, Scantling, Marquez Valdez, Scantling now, and he's a nice player. But again, these aren't your household names. They need to go out and get a weapon for this guy.
And maybe MVS does turn into something better. You know, Devontae Adams didn't start out hot. Maybe he's developing into that. Devontae Adams is a stud. They got a steal in him. But absolutely, you got to do something. Maybe see how the draft falls. Maybe they make a move, but you have to go all in here because, like you said, it's not about NFC Championship games. It's about world championships. And the one thing we know is that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback the Packers have ever had. Now that we know that Brett Favre is a douchebag, which we learned last week on the show, and whatever. But you can let go running backs. You can let go some of these other guys. Bring back Corey Linsley. Bring back Robert Tonyan. Bling Black. Blah, 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 blah. Jamal Williams, nice player. Maybe they sign him to a cheap deal because these guys aren't going to get the money out there that a lot are expecting because of the way the salary cap is set up.
It's going to be very interesting come these cuts and these releases because there's going to be a lot of guys off the books. Because, I mean, look at New Orleans, bro. New Orleans they're like $70 million under the cap. And they're not the only team. There's lots of teams in the red right now. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
I mean, your team right now, you look at it, you wouldn't expect them to be over the cap, but they're over the cap right now.
Yeah, by like $7 million, I think. And
a lot of it's because of the way the Matt Stafford trade went, where you basically are paying $20 million on your cap to Stafford and to Jared Goff. But I mean, that's the way things work.
Yeah.
And I mean, eventually that falls off and you're okay. But a lot of these teams are not going to have a ton of space. Not a lot of salary cap space. There's not going to be a lot of big deals. So it's going to be deals where you're like, okay, we're going to work it out where I believe the way the J.J. Watt deal worked out is it's about a $6 million salary cap hit. So that's not too terrible year one. But then what does that balloon to next year? And does he end up being cut? I mean, you're going to see guys. You look at Kyle Van Noy last year. Kyle Van Noy signed a 4-year, $52 million deal?
Yeah.
And he's going to get cut. They're going to hold off a little bit. They're going to try to trade him, but no one's going to trade for $12.5 million for Kyle Van Noy right now.
Didn't they already cut him?
They haven't officially cut him. They're trying to trade him.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you're 100% right because 6 sacks isn't worth that money.
I mean, Aaron Jones, what are you expecting him to get? People don't pay running backs, but he's going to get money from a team, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be Ezekiel Elliott money.
No, it's not. It's there's going to be, I think there's going to be some players that are very intriguing that are cut that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be cut based off of where we're at in this year. There's very few teams with tons of financial flexibility. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is the year for the teams that are, financially flexible to really be able to land somebody that they might not have been able to land in other off seasons based off of the cap.
I mean, Miami's a team who you're going to look out for. They've still got money. They're set up. But, I mean, there's not a lot of teams. You're absolutely right. And you look at even Arizona, they went out and they grabbed J.J. Watt. They only have $11 million in space. There are people thinking they dropped Chandler Jones because of that, but they're not. If anything, Chandler Jones, you're going to see a lot of teams extend players, get really creative, like the Ben Roethlisberger deal today, where they saved him $15 million on the cap. You're going to see teams extend guys or restructure. Look for the Cleveland Browns to do that. We'll talk more about them next week when we go into the AFC North, when we welcome Garrett Bush in 92.3, the host of the Barbershop Saturday mornings. We'll bring him in. The Browns are team, they've got money. They got about $21 million in salary cap space, but they're going to have to restructure deals. Sheldon Richardson, a guy they might cut. You don't know. Probably their best interior defender, and they've got really no one else right now. But you got to get creative this offseason. $180 million salary cap, not a big salary cap for this league. And then they might go into 17 games next year.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this real quick before we get out of here. 17 games possibly next year, but they're still saying if they do 17 games, that it may only be one bye week still. You think that's ridiculous? Think they need to go to 2 bye weeks?
Are you asking the fan in me?
Either one.
No, I want 17 straight weeks. No bye weeks. No,
Play by week 17.
I don't think. I'm okay with not another bye week not being added. I'm okay with it.
Okay. I mean, you don't think the product will suffer late in the season?
Have you seen Thursday Night Football?
Should they get rid of
ever watched Thursday Night Football?
Can we get rid of Thursday Night Football?
I mean, I don't disagree, and I love Thursday. I love that there's football on Thursday. But if you ever watch Thursday Night Football game, that is probably the product you're going to get with that extra game. Now, do you think having that extra bye week is going to make that product better for that 17th game? And by how much?
I think it would help some. But, I mean, let's get rid of Thursday Night Football. There's a reason we do the show on Thursday nights. If Thursday Night Football was good, we wouldn't do a football show on Thursday night. We'd be probably glued to our TVs watching that. Yeah, and I mean, we watch Thursday Night Football during the show, and yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit of our attention, but not enough.
Exactly.
I mean, if it was a really damn good game, we should be staring at the thing and be like, yeah, you guys want to watch this with us? But no, it doesn't.
But of course, as a fan, I'm all about 17 games.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely up for more. Take away a preseason game. I'm good with 2 preseason games. All it hurts is the fact that there's guys who really can sneak into the league with that 4th preseason game. All right, before we get out of here, let's see what my dad has for us. Chris Somerville always asks us some random-ass trivia question. Who's the only franchise not to have a 4,000-yard passer in a season? / Baker Mayfield is one of 2 QBs to throw for 3,500 yards in their first full 3 seasons.
The Jets.
4,000-yard passer in a season. Jets would make sense. But I feel like Brett Favre threw for 4,000 his year there. Baker Mayfield won 2 QBs throw for 35 in their first 3 full seasons. Andrew Luck. I think Peyton Manning did it too, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think both rookies for the Colts. But yeah, only franchise not to have a 4,000-yard passer.
I'm going to stick with the Jets. I don't know why. Because I think their best days were in, I mean, maybe Brett Favre the 1 year, but outside of that, I can't think of.
That is a tough one. Let's see what the answer is when it comes up here. Everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. Dude, it was a fun, quick show.
Yeah, no, it was efficient. It was good. It was, listen, I could talk with the Lions all day. What's that?
How your eyes feeling over
I'm
there?
I'm good now. I put in some eye drops before the show, and then like with the contacts, I dried them up. And if you wear contacts, I don't know if you do, but if you ever put in eye drops,
just wretched.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, everything's back to normal here. But I'm going with the Jets. The only other, I can't think of another team.
I can't either. I got nothing. Jets sound about right. I mean,
Chris, it's a damn answer.
Come on, before we let you go. But yeah, good show tonight, and great talking to your Lions. I mean, it's an exciting time for you guys because the Bears and famous Jameis. No, I think Jameis. Hang on, let me pull up his answer for those watching. The Bears haven't had a 4,000 yard. That makes sense. And Jameis 3,500. I want to say, here, you take over the show. Talk your Lions for a second. I'm gonna do some research here.
Talk about the Lions. Okay.
Yeah.
So we also extended Jack Fox's contract today.
Punter, baby.
Yeah, if any of you guys are into punter news, got it for you. No big deal. Thanks for asking. The Lions, and again, Dan Campbell's a badass dude. I'm rooting for him. It feels also familiar for a Lions fan to be excited after blowing it up again. That's pretty much what we do on a 3 to 4 year basis, is blow the team up. We're back at it again. Somehow this feels different, but does it? Do I say it always feels different? I might. I probably do. I'm going to say this feels different. But anyway, this feels different.
Peyton threw for 3,700 his first season, 41 his second season, 4,400 his third season. So he was up there. I didn't even look up Andrew Luck. Peyton Manning also. But yeah, Jameis was really good. And Jameis is going to be interesting. We're going to have to talk Jameis coming up here soon too, because where is he going to go? We'll talk free agents next week. We'll also talk to Garrett Bush, as I said. We go into the AFC North after finishing the NFC North this week. Brother man, great show. A lot of fun talking to the Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, and Green Bay Packers next week. It's Browns, Steelers, Ratbirds, and Bengals. Everyone who watched, thank you for watching. Appreciate our sponsors. You can see them at the bottom of the screen. Manhattan Deli Menor, Kitty Cove Daycare, as well as concealed carry firearms training. Also, if you're looking for olive oil, CBD olive oil, check out the sponsor of Ward's Wagers. Call 440-479-4832 or email anandamidj@gmail.com, $16.99 a bottle for some CBD olive oil. It's good stuff. I use it to cook some brisket. Brisket came out friggin' wonderful, along with some garlic jalapeno broccoli and lemon pepper asparagus. So that was delicious after last week's show. And that's it. You got anything else you want to talk about tonight, bro?
No, man, that'll do it. Now I'm hungry. I'm going to go find something to eat. But yeah, it was a good show. Look forward to next week and breaking down maybe excitement in the 216.
Crazy to even think about. That's what gives you hope there in Detroit. And what's your schedule for pods coming out this week? What do you got?
Oh, I have my Closest to the Win on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And in my other show, From the Tips, which will be at 6:30 next Thursday before this show.
Nice.
So a little bit of golf.
Network.
Yep, Hammercast Network. If you're looking for some DFS golf stuff, that's where you find it.
Good stuff, brother. Great show as always. Follow Drew on Twitter at DetroitDave7. If you like his football talk, you'll love his golf talk. Dude loves the game, knows the stuff. Follow me on Twitter at SomervilleCLE. Check out Monday when I release my rankings. I will have a new site up for those rankings to go with the show. And that should all be up by Monday afternoon. So we'll see that. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Check us out here every Thursday live, 8 o'clock. Till whenever the hell we finish the show. It could be anywhere between 9 to 10 o'clock. You never know. Thanks for watching. Enjoy football. Let's have some fun. And, oh, by the way, Josh Gordon got released by the Seattle Seahawks. Big shocker there. But he's already got another job. But as always, remember, if you live the life you love, you love the life you live. Night, kids. Click. And it didn't.